It appears some of my worst fears when it comes to the EV industry as a whole are being realized, particularly when it comes to legacy auto. I understand none of them have been that reasonable or that smart when it comes to the adoption of EVs, with a few exceptions. I like what Hyundai and Kia are doing a lot these days, but today's video mostly comes down to some of the bigger, more corporate, resistant to change kind of companies like General Motors and Stellantis, because both of them have actually recently started pulling back on their investments towards electric vehicle technology, which would be one thing if they were just discovering like, oh, we can't sell these EVs very profitably, or we're not seeing as much demand for our EVs as we thought, so we need to scale back on our spending a little bit. You know, that's one thing that I could somewhat understand, just kind of scaling back so you can re-strategize your approach to electric, but that's not what both of these companies are doing. What they're actually doing is scaling back on the EV investment in favor of investing more money and pouring more time and resources into the combustion engine era, with GM recently pulling out of this big manufacturing facility and these previous agreements they made to invest more in electric vehicle motor technology instead, so they can focus more on combustion engines and figuring out how to make those more efficient or how to make more performance come out of them, which I know, I'm sorry, I can already tell comments are going to say, well, at least, you know, these newer engines might use less fuel than before and there's still going to be a bunch of people buying gas cars, but this is Tailosive EV. I'm sorry, okay? A lot of my love of electric has all stemmed down from my hatred of the combustion engine, and I know like 4 to 7 people actually in my personal life right now that are all having issues with combustion engines. Like their cars are in the shop, they're having major problems with all of the many complexities that involve a gas car, whether it be the starter, whether it be the ignition, head gasket issues, transmission issues, timing chain issues, radiator issues, flywheel issues. Just like everybody I'm talking to is telling me how their car's in the shop, or a friend is having to work on several of his family members' cars because the combustion engine keeps breaking down on them. And this is a situation I've found myself in many, many times, and one of the primary reasons I am excited for the future of electric isn't necessarily just because I think it will eventually be cheaper than gas, although yes, I do think it will be, but also because it simplifies the ownership a lot. I'm not saying EVs never have problems, but usually the problems you have with an EV don't make it immobile, don't make it impossible to drive around in. Like, I've had issues in my Model 3 where one of the seat occupancy sensors isn't working, so you just get this weird annoying seatbelt pop up, or I've had friends that have had to get like control arms replaced, but those are relatively simple and don't make the vehicle impossible to drive in. Like, he didn't have to get his vehicle towed just to get little chassis and suspension adjustments, you know, it's just squeaking a lot. But Stellantis is doing a lot of similar things. They've basically delayed the 500-mile range option for the all-electric REV, you know, their Ram 1500 electric option, now just saying it's going to be a 350-mile range variant, and then they delayed that one to come out even later than expected, and they ended up delaying the plug-in hybrid variant as well, simultaneously investing more into V8s and, again, combustion engine manufacturing and refinement. And I'm like, this is all time and money that I think is at least partially due to the current administration basically promising that they're going to end all of these EV tax credits by the end of the year. I know there's a lot of drama surrounding EV tax credits. There's actually a lot of Tesla bulls out there that agree with their techno king, saying it's okay if we get rid of the subsidies, we just need to also get rid of the oil and gas subsidies. But I've tried to explain on this channel for a while, those are not equal things. Oil and gas is heavily subsidized because it impacts the price of everything. Furniture, goods and services, deliveries, food, pretty much every item you see at the grocery store got there because it was shipped by probably multiple heavy-duty diesel semi-trucks, okay? That is what our infrastructure is dependent on right now, and when you raise the price of fuel, you're penalizing people who can't afford to buy an electric car yet, which is not a good look. And of course, the current administration has doubled down on wanting to drill for more oil and make gas more affordable, so getting rid of the oil subsidies doesn't really support their viewpoint or their goals, which is why, in my opinion, even though I think the EV tax credit was poorly structured, and definitely I would have tweaked it much more than what they did, I still think it helped level the playing field a bit, because in my opinion, it's going to be near impossible to get rid of oil and gas subsidies. But I thought it was reasonable for the federal government, through some means, could help give you a kickback if you're willing to buy a vehicle that doesn't consume fossil fuel, as a thank you for investing in a more expensive but cleaner technology that's going to result in a better atmosphere for everybody, that's also supporting these smaller startups that are working really hard to break into the industry with game-changing tech, Pullback, whether it be Lucid with their super efficient powertrains and high voltage systems, or Rivian with their incredible off-road performance and huge emphasis on beautiful software and autonomous driving. You know, I just think that should be rewarded as thank you for investing in an American brand that's trying to stay technologically competitive with the rest of the world. Keep in mind, China subsidizes their EV brands very, very heavily, and look at how incredible and affordable their EVs are over there, right? So I've just been advocating for a while that we should at least probably somewhat take inspiration from the countries that are having amazing advancements in EV technology and say, we want to be a leader in that field too. But because we're in a country where they don't seem to prioritize that technology all that much, and they're more focused on just lowering the price of fuel and doubling down on fossil fuels, legacy automakers were not making that much money on these EVs anyway. So the tax credit was one of those things kind of keeping it around and helping them at least have some margin, or at least not lose as much money per vehicle. But I think as soon as they saw the tax credit being cut back and the House voting on that and everything, that's right around the time that both GM and Stellantis started pulling back on all of their EV investments. So I don't think this is purely just due to weak demand. They probably were losing money on EVs in the first place and not seeing great demand, but also seeing the tax credit go away really convinced them, like, okay, we think the future is going to involve burning a lot more gasoline than what these other companies are trying to do. So that just kind of goes against, I think, what a lot of the Tesla bulls were claiming. So many Tesla bulls out there had this mindset that, oh, get rid of the EV tax credit. That'll be great because Tesla has the margins, they can afford it, and it will bankrupt everybody else. But I actually don't see that happening now, especially with the way GM and Stellantis are investing and with the way Tesla is struggling to move inventory. Vehicle deliveries are down, inventory's way up, offering more and more low interest financing, which I'm sure Tesla's taking a hit on. So the actual outcome of getting rid of the EV tax credit is not, oh, Tesla's the sole survivor, everybody else goes bankrupt. No, the actual outcome is just everybody keeps buying gas cars, and it takes longer to switch to electric, which a lot of Tesla people just, I think, have this mindset that that's inevitable. Everybody's going to switch to electric within the next 5 to 10 years, even without all these EV mandates, and Tesla just has the best product, so in the future, everyone will be forced to buy a Tesla. But in reality, I think we're just going to have fewer EV options to choose from, and people are just going to keep buying gas cars, and that's not the future I want to be a part of, and that's not what I want the administration to prioritize. So it's just kind of sad. You know, I appreciate that RJ has said on the record that they will never make a gas vehicle at Rivian, so thank you. If you like more of that hybrid approach, I guess Scout is going to try to please both camps a little bit with their gas generator option, but I called this channel Tailosive EV to kind of summarize how I feel about the subject. I'm not interested in hybrids. I'm not interested in more efficient gas vehicles. I want a future where we don't have all of these ignitions and pistons and noisy, stinky gas generators to rely on, and these decisions are kind of pushing that future further out. When I started this channel, I thought it would be easy to get all new cars at least electric by 2035 or 2040. I was thinking, oh yeah, everybody's going to be buying electric by then, but with the way things are going now, I'm actually not convinced we're going to have 100% all cars sold be electric within my lifetime. That's how much my pessimism has impacted me now, and this has been attempted many times. You know, in the early days of the automotive industry, there were electric cars that just didn't have the range, so they didn't stick around. And then we tried again during the gas crisis in the 60s and 70s. There were startups and all these weird, quirky looking EVs that people tried to get out on the road again. Tried again in the 90s with the EV1, and that failed. So this is a very, very difficult problem that I think Tesla is just trying to leapfrog by just going straight to robotaxis, and their thought process is just, we're going to replace all car ownership with autonomous vehicles. I don't think that's going to work out, and I think what we need is a very diverse and affordable range of EVs that cater to what people care about in vehicles. And that's why I'm proud to be at the Tello Truck Company, because I think that's showcasing capability and practicality that would just not ever be possible with a combustion engine. You're not going to get that much towing capacity or payload capacity or horsepower or all-wheel drive in a footprint that small. And that's also why I'm excited about the Aptera, like unlocking capabilities that were never possible with a gas car, charging yourself via sunlight, getting hundreds of miles of range on a really, really small battery pack that's going to be cheaper to replace or cheaper to manufacture. And I think there's so many advantages to electric that are not really being fully explored, and that's going to help people come on board the electric future way more, in my opinion, than just making the same old crossovers, which are not that different from their gas car alternatives. Why would someone consider switching to electric when they have all of these new things to learn when it comes to battery packs and charging speed, degradation and software and preconditioning for fast charging, if they could just buy a cheaper gas car car that just works at a gas station. No, it has to be substantially better than a gas car. It has to unlock a bunch of things that weren't possible with gas in order for people to actually consider it. So that's how I feel about it. How do you guys feel about it? Feel free to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.